Hi, my name is Siti Nur Imanina binti Ahmad Jamil and I am from ED2495B.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Susanna Aini Amina binti Syamsul Anwar. I'm from ED2495B.
Hai, Assalamualaikum. My name is Rabiatul Adawiyah binti Adnan. I'm from ED2495B.
Hello, my name is Nur Amali binti Abdul Rashid and I am from ED2495B.
Hi, my name is Nur Amanina binti Zaidi. I'm from ED2495B.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. I hope that all of you are doing well and safe. Let us proceed to chapter 10, Coherence and Truth. First and foremost, what is coherence and truth? Truth is the property of sentences, assertions, beliefs, thoughts, or propositions that are said in ordinary discourse to agree with the facts or to state what is the case. Besides, truth is the property of being in accord with facts or reality. It is usually held to be the opposite of falsehood. On the other hand, coherence is a systematic or logical connection or consistency. It is similar with the situations when the parts of something fit together in a natural or reasonable way. Also, words coherence comes from Latin words, which means to stick together. If we are saying that the policies, arguments, or strategies are coherent, that means they are making sense. For an instance, scientists will always be looking for coherence in data to support their hypothesis. Also, coaches are always be looking for coherence in their team, so they will not fall apart. So, I guess that all of you already understand the definition of truth and coherence. I will now proceed to the type of truth. There are two types of truth: necessary truth and contingent truth. Necessary truth is a proposition that could not have been false and is true in every possible world. While for contingent truth, it is a true proposition that could have been false and it may be true in some possible worlds and not in others. Besides, a contingent falsehood is a false proposition that could have been true. Can you differentiate between these two? Or are you still trying to understand them? It is okay, I will explain to you the example for each type. These are the example of sentences that represent both types of truth. From necessary truth, first statement, all living things need oxygen. It is true, right? No matter what type of living things, all of us definitely need oxygen to breathe. Okay, for the second statement, it is a mathematical equation. 10 minus 6 equals to 4. This statement is true and valid ever since we are in kindergarten. And for the last statement, for necessary truth, is all married wives are married women. This is also true in any situation. It is different to contingent truth. For the first statement, roses are red. This statement could have been false since there are roses are white, pink, and blue. For the next statement, the number one fear in US is public speaking. It could have been that the number one fear in US is something else, such as skydiving. For the last statement, it is raining in Perak. It could have been that it is sunny day in Perak. So how is everyone? I hope that the example just now will make you guys more understand and clear about the types of truth. Next, I will explain about the importance of truth. As I have explained from the previous slide, truth is fact or belief that is accepted to be true. Truth is one of the guides that we need in our life. Truth is important for scientists and philosophers to come out with theories that we are learning today. We have learned so many theories throughout these 3 years. For an example, we have learned about John Piaget's theory, which is the 4 stages of cognitive development. This theory will help us in our career as a teacher one day. Well, that is for the scientific purpose or perspectives. For our daily life perspectives, truth can unite all human beings since it is what we all have in common, and that will never change. There is only one sky for us. We eat and breathe, and it is same for everyone. As for us Muslims, we have Quran and Sunnah that provide us the ultimate truth and guidance for our life. Before I pass this presentation to the next presenter, I would like to explain about the truth of a theory. It is a basic requirement that are needed before theories are being constructed from the truth. Truth is correspondence with facts. A theory, like any belief, any proposition, is true if it corresponds to the facts in real world. However, we cannot simply depend on the facts to make it as proofs for scientific theories. The correspondence link between theory and fact was secure only if we could check both ends. We need to compare and describe the correspondence relation between both theory and fact. Next, indicators of the truth of a theory must be internal, within conceptual and theoretical system. Justifying factors are the most needed features. We need to justify the relations among items in conceptual system, which is the relation among beliefs, or in context of science, the relation among theoretical claims.
Earlier today, an American podcaster updated an ancient parable previously used to subvert the notion of truth and reason. The first verse of the poem speaks about 6 men of Indostan, to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, and each of them had preconceived the creature in his mind. In the poem, each of the 6 travelers takes a hold of a different part of the elephant which matched their own preconception of what an elephant was, and then describes to the others the confirmation of his own bias. One of the men grabbed a hold of the elephant's leg because he believed that elephants were round and rough like a tree. Another held on to the tusk because he knew in his heart that an elephant was shaped like a spear. A third grabs the tail and insists upon his belief that an elephant is like a rope. A fourth grabs the trunk because he had always been taught that an elephant is like a large snake. Each is describing their own personal bias, which they perceive as the truth because that is what they had always been taught. And because their understanding of this truth has now been reinforced by a biased assessment of the elephant, each insists that he is correct and knows what he knows. The poem concludes, "And so these men of Indostan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion, exceeding stiff and strong, and each was blind to their own bias, and all were in the wrong." That someone could approach a subject with a preconceived conclusion and ignore all other points of data to support only their bias seems absurd or even unbelievable. On the other hand, can we recognize ourselves in these 6 blind men? Have we ever been guilty of the same pattern of thought? We have so many examples of things that mankind once knew were true but have since proven false. For example, in spite of one-time overwhelming consensus, the Earth isn't flat. The stars don't revolve around the Earth, and of course, man actually can fly, even break the sound barrier. Often, truth is rejected because it doesn't appear to be consistent with things we have long been taught and assumed were true without questioning those assumptions. The thing about truth is that it is established by questioning and challenging our beliefs to see if they match the evidence. If our beliefs are proven false, we have the opportunity to discard those erroneous beliefs and come closer to the truth. We simply don't know all things. We can't see everything, and many of the things which we may preconceive to be true would be shown to be false if we would simply open our minds to the possibility that we might be wrong. Because we tend to hold on to our beliefs and ignore contradictory evidence, we have to remember our bias and keep a mind open to new evidence, even and especially if it contradicts dearly held beliefs. That is because it is dangerous and arrogant to assume that we already possess the complete, correct, and incorruptible truth. If we assume that we already have the truth as it was, as it is, and as it will be, then we will never be able to correct any of our errors or adapt to new knowledge. The principles of reason and logic, tempered with an understanding of our own biases and a willingness to overcome them, offer us the best chance to detect error and pursue the truth. Now, what is this process? It is the process of rational thought. There are charlatans all over the world who will attempt to demonize and distort rationality. They will tell you that since nothing can be known with absolute certainty, then you should doubt your own mind and submit to their decrees for which they claim a divine sanction. As you accept the responsibility to seek after truth with an open mind and a humble heart, you will understand that you might be wrong about some things. This will enable you to look at evidence and conclusions you might have previously ignored. You may become more tolerant of others, more open to listening, more prepared to understand, more inclined to build up ideas which invite and withstand scrutiny and tear down false notions that beg you not to question or to doubt. You will be more willing to see the truth if you don't assume you already have it. It is my plea that you will seek the truth earnestly and unceasingly, that you will yearn to think critically and remember those biases and fallacies which may distort your perceptions so that you can account for and overcome them. Even when you think you have found it, keep questioning and searching. The quest for truth never ends.
Next, I will explain to you about the product of coherence. There are 3 products of coherence that I have found, which is truth, confirmation, and justification. First, truth. What did you know about truth? As a simple word from here, truth is a belief that is true when it fits with another belief and meaning. Your belief will be true if it fits with the other belief. And second is confirmation. We always say, yes, it confirmed. But what is confirm? Confirm is a verification or the final proof of something. The facts or theory need to be verified before to be confirmed. And the third one is justification. Justification is the action show that something to be right and reasonable. Okay, now let me see at the ocean's color. Based on your opinion, what colors it belongs to? I'm sure all of you will say it is blue, right? Even during your checkbook, you will put the blue color for the oceans. So, it will be true if the others also agree that the ocean is blue. This is what we call truth. But what if suddenly someone said that ocean's color is Arctic? So, what you need to do is try to verify that Arctic is one of the ocean's color. From the color palette, Arctic is one of the blue family. So, the statement is coherence and can be confirmed that Arctic is one of the ocean's color. Back to the color palettes and the ocean's color. We can see that ocean has a variety of color. So, there must be a name for each color that represent the blue family and the ocean's color. From that, we can justify that ocean has a variety colors of blue, and it is based on someone's view. Next, we will see coherence in word and sentence. Coherence is achieved when sentence and idea are connected and flow together smoothly. To achieve coherence, there are 5 methods that can be used, and this method will be useful in your writing. Okay, now let me search what if the 5 methods of coherence in word and sentence. The first one is repetition of keyword and phrase. This first method helps to connect and focus ideas throughout the essay and help the reader remain focused and headed in the right directions. The example sentence is, you can fool some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. As you can see here, the highlighted is the repetition of the phrase. This sentence is a message for the reader that help them to stay focused in the situations. The next one is synonym. Synonym words have the same or nearly the same meaning as the word. It provides variety in word choice. For example, happy. Happy synonym with joyful, cheerful, and delighted. They are different words but give the same meaning to describe happy. The example sentence is, myth narrates cat history. These traditional narratives are a set of beliefs that are a very real force in the belief of the people who tell them. From this sentence, we can see myth is synonym with traditional narrative and it connected each other. The third one is pronouns. This method used to link and connect this sentence by referring to preceding nouns and pronouns. The example word for these pronouns is that, this, those. He, she, it, they, we. And the example sentence is, Hel Hussaini is a singer and he also a songwriter. The pronouns used here is he that describe Hel Hussaini. For this kind of sentence, you don't have to repeat the nouns to avoid the reader lose their focus because of unnecessary repetition. The fourth method is structure sentence. which is a parallel structure. Parallelism is use of matching word, phrase, clause or sentence structure to express similar idea. The example sentence is, the academic conversation group consists of students from China, Japan, Korea and Germany. The idea here is the country, and the highlighted word is represent the idea, which is the student's country. And the last one is transitional expressions. This method acts as signal to let reader know the previous idea, sentence and paragraph is connected to what follows. The example word is again, also, and with, however, because, finally, hence. You usually use this in your writing to connect the two sentences. And the example sentence is, I ran home and I got there just in time. Second one is, I like the autumn and yet autumn is a sad time of the year. You can see the word highlighted there is used to connect the sentence. And now let me see what we have in the type of the truth theory. The truth theory can be divided into three types of theory, which means it has three types of belief. Now, let's play all the three types of theories in this playlist.
जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना
नेटवर्क बंद पापा चालू प्रज्ञा कुछ कर ना
अरे गाना खत्म और ऐड चालू
प्रज्ञा कुछ
कर दिया फैमिली प्लान लिया और सबको अपना अकाउंट दिया माँ सिर्फ 199 per month.
Spotify Premium Family Plan. Downloadable ad-free music on 6 personal accounts. Only 199 per month.
The first one is correspondence theory. This theory is dominant theory and popular among empiricists. This theory stated that a belief is true when it corresponds to fact or with what is out there in the real world. For example, the apple is sitting on the table. It can be true if and only if you see the apple is in fact sitting on the table. Okay, now let me see another example. The Latin sentence previously said that snow is white if and only if snow is white. So, what do you think? Is the snow is white? Let's think together. The second is coherent theory. This type of theory preferred by many idealists. For them, reality is like a collection of beliefs, which makes the coherent theory particularly attractive. If a proposition is coherent with all the other propositions taken to be true, then it is true. A belief is true if it coheres with other beliefs that we regard as true. For example, a plant needs sun for growth. Then you put the plant near to the window. As a result, after 1 week, you will see the plant is growing toward to where the sunlight is. This statement is coherent with the previous statement, which is plant need sun for growth.
Why is this plant always bent towards the window?
Because plants need sunlight to grow.
How do you know?
Okay, we'll do an experiment to prove this.
Okay, what do we need to perform the experiment?
We will need 2 pieces of card, jug of water, scissors, small potted plant which should fit into the box, and a shoe box.
Shall we start?
We will cut a large window in one end of the box. Cut a window in each card and keep it aside. Put the pot in the cardboard box and fix the cardboard piece slightly above it. Cover the box and keep in well-lit place for few days. Water the plant every day. After some days, you will notice that the plant has grown out of the opening of the cardboard piece. Now, fix the second piece of cardboard slightly above the previous card. Water every day and keep observing. Now, you will see the plant will grow out of the box. Open the box and see the plant.
How did this happen?
The plant bends in order to get through all the windows and reach the light. This shows that sun is very essential for plants to grow.
The third one is pragmatic theory. The theory said that belief is true if it works and useful for our purpose. Truth can be defined only in relation to consequence. Statement is true if people can use that statement to achieve results that satisfy their interests or help them to achieve their goals. For this theory, there are no unchanged absolute truth. The truth is depending on someone's belief. For example, your belief to spirit of ghosts may work the purpose of the fortune teller or shamans. If a shaman is actually fooling you around, but you believe it, then it is true. But still, it depends on ourselves to believe it or not. So, here is example for the pragmatic theory video.
Assalamualaikum Tok Omong. Waalaikumsalam. Apa khabar? Sila duduk. Ramai datang ni. Ya. Datang 5 orang ya? Ya, 5 orang. Naik motorkar kan? Ya, motorkar. Apa hajat datang ni?
Besar hajat Tok Bomo. Saya datang ni pasal
pasal budak Nora tu ya?
Ya. Pandai.
Saya dah tahu dah. Tapi budak ni susah sikit.
Susah?
Pasal dia banyak mambang-mambang yang menjaga dia. Biadi-biadi kampung banyak menjaga. Tak ada bomo lain boleh challenge. Saya seorang lah dalam negeri yang boleh.
Lain orang tak boleh? Tolonglah Tok Bomo.
Kalau tak percaya, cuba tengok.
Tengok?
Tengok dalam.
Di mana Tok Bomo?
Tu dalam. Tak ada apa pun. Tak nampak.
Tak ada?
Kalau awak tak nampak, jodoh tak ada awak.
Nampak Tok Bomo. Nampak. Saya nampak ni.
Nampak?
Ya.
Ada jodoh.
Apa
lagi?
Okay, now let's see the other album we have in the library. Oh, it is the difference between two theories. These differences are also the summary for these 3 theories. So we can differentiate what the meaning of the truth in each theory. Correspondence theory said that truth is what corresponds to fact and it requires the existence of all sorts of causal facts which true statements are supposed to correspond. For coherence theory, truth is what coheres with the rest of our knowledge, but there is some knowledge that not sufficient for truth, such as a fairy tale. Fairy tale may be perfectly coherent, but it is still a fairy tale. And pragmatics say that truth is what works or serves our purpose. A proposition can be true but not useful, and useful but not true. Two contradictory beliefs could be true. It can be related to my previous example of shamans before. Here is the example for the 3 theories. Stacy has been rumored to have gone date with Mike. The first question is, if you see with your own eyes that Stacy and Mike are dating, so it is true. This is what we call as correspondence theory. But if you only have heard that previously both of them are dating, so we can assume it is true. since it is coherent with the previous statements. It is a coherence theory. And the fourth pragmatic theory is the rumor can be true if you believe and can be false if you don't believe that rumors. Maybe because you have a crush on mine. And this is another video for the 3 types of theories. Based on that situation, we can see that there are one situation with 3 different types of belief that apply.
Hi, my name is Josh Rasmussen. I'm an associate professor of philosophy at Azusa Pacific University, and today I'm going to talk about the nature of truth. Truth is a treasure everyone wants more of. Scientists build careers searching for it. Students spend fortunes collecting it. All businesses and all universities devote massive resources to get it. Entire religions arise around the pursuit and defense of it. Even now, you are curious to gain more of it from this video. But why? Why prefer truth over falsehood? Why is truth worth pursuing at all? By understanding more about truth, you can better understand why truth is a treasure and how to get more of it. There are different theories of truth on the market, and to help you investigate which of these theories may be true, I will discuss some of the major theories and their challenges. I'll begin with the correspondence theory. This theory claims that for something to be true, it must correspond with, that is, match or accurately describe something real. For example, if I place a real cat on my mat, then the statement, "a cat is on my mat," becomes true. This theory makes sense of our scientific practices, where we observe aspects of the real world in an effort to gain more truths about the world. On this theory, truth is a treasure because the more truth you have, the more often your expectations match actual reality. Pretty intuitive, right? Here's a challenge to consider. When you see a cat, you experience it from a unique vantage point after your brain processes external stimuli. In other words, you experience the cat from your perspective. But then how can you see the cat as it truly is outside your perspective? It's not like you can get outside your head to look at the cat. This problem is related to a more basic question about the nature of correspondence. How can truths inside your head correspond to things outside your head? How does that work? Some philosophers worry that by analyzing truth as correspondence, you exchange the mystery of truth for a greater mystery. Let's consider an alternative approach. A number of theories treat truth as dependent on elements of one's perspective. These theories include, for example, versions of coherentism and pragmatism. To illustrate, your belief that the cat is on the mat will count as true if it is coherent, if you are a coherentist, or useful if you are a pragmatist. On these theories, truth is a treasure because the more truth you have, the more desirable your thinking is. It is either more rational or more useful. These theories also solve the correspondence theory's problem of getting outside your perspective, since all your truth is ultimately based on features accessed within your perspective, such as your aims or the coherence of your beliefs. An important challenge, however, is that some truths seem to lie beyond everyone's current perspective. For example, either it is now true that there is an even number of cats, or it is now true that there is an odd number. But presumably, no current perspective includes awareness of the precise number of cats. No one has counted the cats, hence the truth of the number of cats does not depend on any current perspective. Rather, it depends on the number of cats, whether or not anyone knows that number. We've just learned that some theories of truth claim that for something to be true, it must correspond with something real, while other theories claim that truth is dependent on elements within one's perspective. Start with observations of clear truths, like that you exist, that 1 + 1 = 2, and so on. Then find a theory of truth that best accounts for all these clear cases. The simplest theory of truth that counts for all the cases has the best chance of being true?
Hi, I will continue to explain about the theoretical and observational claims. First, let's look into the theoretical claim. Theoretical claim is the claim that a measure captures something in an implicit way that needs to be confirmed by additional research. Theoretical claims are explained, implied, or sanctioned by other claims in the system. Theories are being answered by the time and showing the truth. For example, theory about photosynthesis. We know that photosynthesis happens when there is a sunlight, but we don't know, maybe in the future, the theory about photosynthesis will change and proven by new theories that were developed by other researchers. One cannot verify such claims simply by looking at the measure or the measurement procedure itself. Additional observation or arguments result from additional research are needed to back up the validity of the claim. Theoretical claims are the result of reflection. Their origin is in thought that they are produced through inference and suggestion from other ideas and other claims. It's also the product of activity in theorizing and thinking. For example, the idea that the sun maintains its supply energy from an ongoing process of nuclear fusion at the core is an idea that comes by through thinking about things, and putting two together are the beliefs about energy and astronomy that suggest about solar energy. Okay, next, let's look through the types of theoretical claims. The first two is categorical and event claims. Categorical and event claims are simple knowledge claims. It's also referred as belief. Categorical claims take place when we categorize something into its suitable category. For example, plants are living things. Event claims take place when some event happens. For example, its plant died. And the next type claim is causal claim, which claims that we include an explanation why the claim is correct. It's also invoking a single factor as a cause. For example, the plant died because of inadequate sunlight. Next, observational claims. Many beliefs come to mind not from an active process of inference, but as the direct causes result of interaction with the world. One of the beliefs is observational belief. Observational beliefs are each one caused by particular sensation. The conceptual description of their adjective content provides a handle of what sensation is of. Also, their accountability as reliably caused beliefs are established in relation to other beliefs and theories. For example, the idea about the cosmic ray in the room is the first place as a result of particular sensation. Their accountability indicates that the scientists come to believe by looking at the cloud chamber, so they come to believe by looking. Okay, next, observational belief also caused by an influence from the world, which is spontaneous belief. Spontaneous belief from observation must be dressed in theory to participate as evidence. For your information, observation are a result of causal sensory input from the environment. It refers to the idea that one event, behavior, or belief will result in the occurrence of another subsequent event, behavior, or belief. However, the object and event does not directly justify the scientific claim, because many believe there is a spontaneous effect of particular sensation. Next, the important differences of theoretical and observational claims is because of their genesis of belief and the source of ideas. Theoretical claims are form result of reflection, while observational form result of causal. As I mentioned before this, the theoretical claims are produced through inference and suggestion from other ideas. However, the idea of observational claims are from the source of the work's input and guidance over describing and modeling. Okay, next, I will show you guys the video as an example of the theoretical and observational claims made by other scientists about the Darwinian evolution theory.
Natural history museums create the impression that scientists from every field unanimously support the idea that evolution over millions of years explain all life on Earth. But think about some of the topics we've covered in this series. We've seen that even in the core idea of evolution, natural selection and adaptation doesn't stand up to investigation. Modern research has shown that the leading example for this, Darwin's finches, doesn't even support this idea because changes are limited to within each kind of animal and they can happen quickly, even within one generation, as animals adapt to their environment, but only within their pre-engineered genetic code. There's also a long list of scientists out there who don't believe in Darwinian evolution.
I'm skeptical of the claim.
I'm skeptical.
We are skeptical
of claims for the ability of
Random mutations
And natural selection
to account for the complexity of life
A careful examination
of the evidence
For Darwinian theory
should be encouraged.
skeptical of claims
for the ability of random mutations
and natural selection
to account for the complexity
The complexity.
to account for the complexity of life.
Careful examination
of the evidence
for Darwinian theory
should be encouraged.
Next, I will explain about humanity. Have you guys ever heard about humanity? I bet this is the first time you heard, right? So, what is humanity? Humanity is the art of understanding and making oneself understood. It has also been called the science or art of interpretation. In simpler words, humanity is about the interpretation in field of study using various sources so that we can understand the context. The text can be from literature, which include books and paper, statistics, which include data, and the last one is one of document, which include letter, report, and diary. Humanity comes from the ancient Greek language hermeneuin, that means to utter, to explain, to translate. Hermeneutic enables us to elicit on in-depth understanding because as we interpret the text or data, we inspect the context from alternating perspectives. Hermeneutic in science depict the understanding of scientists on previous theory and relevant facts of scientific discovery that enable them to integrate all the detail into a new coherent framework. In science, hermeneutic is used to interpret the data based on the text and proven observation. In order to come up with a new theory, scientists need to collect all the information based on the proven observation that are related to the theory. If all the data are coherent to each other, then they can develop a theory. Hence, hermeneutic enables us to see the coherence of the data and the proven observation. Okay, let's see an example. Scientist A claimed that glucose can provide energy to our body, while Scientist B claimed that carbohydrate contain sugar and sugar can produce glucose. If we observe and compare both claims, we can see that there is connection between the two claims, so it can be said that these two claims are coherent. Hence, the finding from these two claims is carbohydrate can give energy to our body. Besides, in scientific method, hermeneutic is used to interpret the data so that we can explain from the result of the experiment. Overall, hermeneutic is used when we want to understand the subject, and during the process to understand, we explore various sources so that we truly understand the context. Still confused? Okay, let's look at on another situation. Okay, let's say we study about the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution is based on the idea that all species are related and gradually change over time. As we get deeper on the topic, we see the connection between genetic variation and the environment adaptation. For example, statement A states that there being genetic variation in a population which affect the physical characteristics of an organism, while statement B states that individuals with characteristics best suited to the environment are more likely to survive, finding food, avoid predator, and resisting disease. So, as we study both statements, we can see that there are connections between statement A and statement B. Hence, individuals that are most fit to the environment are more likely to reproduce and pass their genes on their children, while individuals that are poorly adapted to their environment are less likely to survive and reproduce. Therefore, we can see that there is connection between the two statements, and the connection is known as natural selection. As we understand both statements, we can enhance our understanding on theory of evolution. I hope you guys clear about hermeneutic. Okay, let's move on to the importance of hermeneutic. First, hermeneutic encourages in-depth understanding. During the process of understanding on the context, we may examine it from various angles. Each examination will improve our understanding of the context. Besides, when we return to the idea that we have already known, we often be able to find new information because during the process, the other view have improved our awareness in finding new aspects to the already previously known facts and interpretation. Okay, contoh macam ni. Bila kita kaji pasal gula, barulah kita faham yang gula ni boleh menghasilkan glukos. Dalam proses untuk kita faham pasal gula tu, mesti kita akan cari daripada banyak-banyak sumber. So, dalam proses pencarian tu, secara tak langsungnya kita juga discover pasal fructose, which is adik-beradik kepada glukos. So, kita punya pemahaman pasal gula akan lagi better. Next, hermeneutic is used to find the best interpretation of the text or data. If there are two interpreters, both of them will interpret the data based on their understanding and their finding on previous observation. So, the result of the interpretation might be slightly different. In order to find the best interpretation of the data, they need to apply the principle of charity. They need to discuss in a diligent way by explaining their point of view and then solve in the most rational way considering the best interpretation. The principle of charity will be explained further on hermeneutic method. The last is hermeneutic express the inner thought. When doing an experiment, we record the data that obtained from the experiment. Then, we are required to interpret the data from our understanding and the previous research so that readers are able to understand the result from the experiment. This shows how spoken and written words were expression of inner thought. Hermeneutics allow us to understand the meaning of indirect words.
How you like that? You gon' like that?
Welcome sa Comedy Podcast ng Spotify.
Oh, Beanie Beanie, just touch my body. Don't need nobody else but you, you're my.
From the previous slide, we have discussed on hermeneutic. So, now we proceed to hermeneutic method. As we know, hermeneutic is the study of the methodological principles of interpretation. Through hermeneutics, researchers could develop empathy with text, a relationship similar to what occurs when listeners understand information conveyed by a speaker. Hermeneutic method involve interpreting text, requirement of coherence, requirement of consistency, and the last one is principle of charity. The first method of hermeneutic is interpreting text. To translate the text, one must initially speculate on the meaning of individual words and passages. Speculation based on pattern of recurrence of symbols and their place in the context with other pattern and passages. Initial speculation provide preliminary hypotheses about the messages of individual passages, and it can lead to way to test the speculation. Hence, we can try to assume assignment of meanings on other occurrence of the symbols, other passages in the text, and see if the resulting translation makes sense. If it does, the standards of testing can be tightened by asking whether the newly translated passage is consistent with others that have been translated already. Now, we proceed to the second of hermeneutic method, which is requirement of coherence. As we know, coherence is achieved when sentences and ideas are connected and flow together smoothly. According to coherence theory, to say that a statement, usually called a judgment, is true or false is to say that it coheres or fails to cohere with a system of other statements. So, to test whether a statement is true is to test it for coherence with a system of statements. A statement cannot properly be called true unless it fits into the one comprehensive account of the universe or reality, which itself forms a coherent system. No statement can be known to be true until it is known to cohere with every other statement of the system, where the system consists of all true statements and such knowledge is unattainable. So, the coherence of interpretation makes it believable. Now, we proceed to the next method, which is requirement of consistency. For your information, consistency is certainly a necessary feature of an acceptable, that is, likely to be a true interpretation of text. That's why, if the developing understanding of the message of the book is consistent and coherent, there is reason to think that it is developing toward correct reading. On the other hand, by consistency, we mean that once a writer has selected certain criteria for the text, this must be maintained. For example, If the writer chooses to write the text in the present tense, they cannot later shift to the past tense. This element must remain consistent for coherence. That's why consistency is a requirement of acceptability of a theory about what the text says. Before we go to the last method of hermeneutic, do you ever hear about deductive and inductive argument? Yes, of course. Whether an argument is deductive or inductive depends on how the author or speaker intends it to work. So now, let us look at deductive argument first. Deductive argument claims that the premises support the conclusion absolutely or 100% with rigorous, inescapable logic. Even if the argument actually fails, the author's intent makes it deductive. This means that the author intends the premises to support the conclusion absolutely, where no if, ands, or buts. Besides, the argument claims that the conclusion cannot be false if all the premises are true. Conversely, it claims that if the conclusion is false, then at least one premise must be false. In a simple word, deduction claims that for all true premises, guarantee it is a true conclusion, and for a false conclusion, guarantee at least one false premise. Now, let we look at the example. For example 1, Premise 1. All 100% of my uncles are retired, and this guy next to me is one of my uncles. Therefore, this guy is retired. This is a logically correct argument. This is because, as we know, if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. So, for example 2, all members of the club are allowed in the pool. Abernethy is allowed in the pool. Therefore, Abernethy is a member of the club. This is an incorrect deductive argument. In this argument, the premises don't actually support the conclusion because it could be that some non-members are allowed in as well. We were not told that only members can use the pool, but it is still deductive because the format of the argument makes it clear that the premises were meant to guarantee the conclusion. But they actually don't due to a mistake in reasoning. Now, we proceed to inductive argument. An inductive argument claims that the premises support the conclusion, but only with a degree of probability, making the conclusion more likely to be true than false. Even if the argument actually fails, the author's intent makes it inductive. The author intends the premises to support the conclusion with a significant degree of probability. The argument claims that the conclusion is probably true, but not guaranteed if all the premises are true. Of course, if some premise is false, the conclusion can be improbable. Next, we look at the example of inductive argument. 71% of college students have a driver's license. Ella is a college student. The conclusion is, therefore, Ella probably 3% probability has a driver's license. The premises give strong support, but less than 100% to the conclusion. So now, the last method of hermeneutic is principle of charity. The principle of charity is a philosophical principle that denotes when interpreting someone's statement, you should assume that the best possible interpretation of that statement is the one that the speaker meant to convey. Accordingly, to implement the principle of charity, you should not attribute falsehoods, logical fallacies, or irrationality to pupils' argument where there is a plausible, rational alternative available. For example, based on the principle of charity, if someone presents you with an argument that can be interpreted in two possible ways, one of which is logically sound and the other which is faulty reasoning, you should assume that the logically sound interpretation is the one that they mean to convey, as long as it is reasonable to do so. Besides, if a passage can reasonably be interpreted either as a deductive argument or as an inductive argument, keep in mind there are limits to what counts as a reasonable interpretation, and it does not work as a good deduction, but it is a good induction. Give the speaker or writer the benefit of the doubt and assume they mean it as inductive. So, implementing the principle of charity can be beneficial in a wide range of scenarios since it can help encourage proper dialogue and productive discussion while also improving our ability to form strong arguments. To make sure that you have clear understanding about principle of charity, let us watch this video.
Last but not least, let's see the application of hermeneutic. First, hermeneutic is used to discover the truth and values expressed in the scripture such as Bible and Quran. Hermeneutic was initially applied to understand the scripture. Normally, hermeneutic is used to study of the principle and method of interpreting the text of the Bible. The hermeneutic that they use will determine their understanding of what their God has communicated. The way of they understand scripture will ultimately affect every aspect of their life. Next, hermeneutic philosophers use hermeneutic to understand cultural tradition, language, and history. Text interpretation based on change in the world. We live in a special time period with the unique culture, and over time people change. So does the world, and the way we interpret things, different time period have a different culture, and we will interpret the text differently. If we read books that was published a long time ago, we need hermeneutic to understand the context and have a proper interpretation. To properly interpret the ancient text, we need to take the consideration of the cultural and historical context. Then, we can figure out the author's original intent. Next, hermeneutic used in studying message of art such as poem, novel, painting, and other depictive works of art. In art, each color brings the different meaning. For example, if we look at our country's flag, each color has its own meaning. The red color represents the bravery of Malaysians, and the blue color represents the unity of Malaysians. So, we must understand each color, shape, and object used in the flag so that we can understand the hidden meaning of our national flag. Same goes with the painting. Each painting has its own meaning. So, to understand the meaning, we need to explore on the figure, color, objects, and other that contained in the painting. And the last one is the interpretation in our daily life. Maybe we do not realize that almost every day we use hermeneutic. For example, when we do an assignment, we search from many sources in order to understand the context. So, that's how the hermeneutic is applied. When we want to understand something, we do a research from many sources. Besides, when we watch a crime movie, we will interpret the scene based on our understanding. And that's how hermeneutic is used. We interpret the scene based on our understanding. Same goes when we look at our friends' action. So we will interpret their action based on our understanding. So I hope you guys crystal clear about hermeneutic. That's all from me. Thank you.